Hi, this is Sarah with Conceive with Joy. You can find me online at conceivewithjoy.com. And so today I want to be talking about how holding on to ancestral pain and trauma could actually be keeping you from getting pregnant or staying pregnant. So in my work, I talk a lot about how your emotions and your thoughts might be getting in the way of you getting pregnant. And this is a little bit of an offshoot of that. And I want to use today an example from my own life, and then I want to talk about a client as well. So holding on to ancestral pain and trauma could be keeping you from getting pregnant. Now, so first of all, what is ancestral pain and trauma? So this is a belief held by typically indigenous societies that have shamans and medicine people, that painful emotions, painful experiences can actually be passed down through the lineages. And there is a scientist by the name of Dr. Bruce Lipton who has studied some of this work. And in fact, the cells of our bodies can hold on to painful emotions and experiences. And that's been proven through his work. And you can check out his book at The Biology of Belief. And he also has a bunch of YouTube videos. So for right now, I want to talk about it less from the scientific point of view and more from an indigenous point of view. And so all indigenous societies that had medicine people or had shamans had this belief that ancestral pain, ancestral trauma can be passed down through the lineages. So just to give you an example, a while ago, I was struggling financially. And I didn't have enough money to pay for groceries or to pay to go out to eat or anything like that. And so I was forced to be in situations where I could receive free food. So one of those situations was I was living near a Sikh temple at the time, and Sikh temples offer free food to anybody. And so I would walk to this Sikh temple to receive free food, free breakfast, free lunch, free dinner. And, while I was grateful for the free food, it was actually a really difficult situation. And I remember so that was a period of my life where I would go to these Sikh temples. Or I would go to this one particular Sikh temple for free food. And I remember having a healing session a little while after that period of time in my life. And what came up in that healing session was that my body was holding on to a memory, a difficult experience that a male ancestor had had. And this particular male ancestor had to go to a friend's house to eat food for free because this male ancestor was poor and it wouldn't have had food otherwise. And I was holding on to that memory of this particular ancestor in my body. And this came out by working with a body talk healer. And she was able to tune into my body and had that memory of an ancestor having that difficult experience of having to go to a friend's house because they were broke for dinner to receive food. And so we cleared that from my body, and now if I want to get free food, I don't have as much of that difficulty or pain or trauma. So that's an example of how our bodies can hold on to ancestral pain and trauma. Another example that I can tell you from my life has to do with the female lineages in my family on my mother's side. Myself and my mother, my grandmother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my great-grandmother, and my great-great-grandmother. And so in my family lineage, there has been difficult relationships, pain and trauma between mother and daughter, going back to my great-great-grandmother. I had that difficulty with my mother. My mother had that trauma from her mother. My grandmother had that difficult relationship and trauma from her mother, my great-grandmother. And so, as you can see, there's a pattern here of difficult female relationships. and pain and trauma over the mother not really honoring or seeing the daughter in my situation from my family lineage. And unless I am willing, and I continue to heal that, to heal the pain over not being mothered deeply, and to shift my focus to receive mothering from other areas. So if I wasn't willing to face that and resolve that and heal that, I would just pass that down to my child, when I'm ready to have children. But because I've been willing to face that difficult relationship with my mother, and also do energetic healing and emotional healing for the relationship that my mother had with her grandmother, the relationship my grandmother had with her mother, my great-grandmother, the relationship my great-grandmother had with her mother, my great-great-grandmother. So because I've been able to emotionally, spiritually, energetically, and shamanically heal that, I'm not going to pass that down to my child when I do have a child, because I've healed the mother lineages. I've healed this pain, this mother-daughter pain that has been passed from generation to generation in my female lineage. So you might be thinking, okay, well, how does this affect my ability to get pregnant? So I'm getting to that. So I want to highlight that by giving you an example from a client. This client, let's just call her D, her first initial D. Okay, so this client D, one of the reasons why she was struggling to get pregnant was she was holding on to pain and trauma and difficult emotions over her relationship with her mother. And she was caught up emotionally, energetically, spiritually with how difficult her relationship was with her mother. And so it was difficult for her emotionally and mentally to get into this space of, okay, now I'm going to be a mother, right? So we always need to finish unfinished business, emotional business, mental business, whatever it is, before we can move on to the next. And so if you're hung up on how difficult your relationship was with your mother and how painful that was, it's going to be difficult for you to shift to being ready to be a mother yourself. And then also, too, that can often, when you have a difficult relationship with your mother, that can often, you often think thoughts of, oh, well, what makes me think that I'll be able to have a good relationship with my child? Or what makes me think that I'll be able to be a good mother? Or, what if I don't even know how to mother? What if I don't even know how to do this mothering thing? And so there's a lot of self-doubt that comes up and a lot of thoughts that come up that are not helpful to get pregnant. So she was struggling to get pregnant because emotionally she was caught up with the pain and the trauma over not having been mothered how she would have wanted to have been mothered. And then also there were some of these thoughts kind of lingering of, well, what if I don't know how to be a mother, and what if I can't do it, and and what if I end up having a difficult relationship with my child. And I would venture to guess, and we actually didn't really go in deeply to ancestral pain and trauma with this particular client, but I would venture to guess that there were difficult relationships between mothers and daughters in her female lineage for more generations than just her and her mother. I would venture to guess that her mother had a difficult relationship with her mother, so it would be her grandmother, etc., etc. When you're holding on to emotional pain, whether it's ancestral or otherwise, it makes it difficult to enter into the next phase of your life. And so anytime you can release any underlying emotional pain, trauma, and suffering, that's going to help you transition to the next phase of your life, which would be getting pregnant and staying pregnant. And then also on a deeper level, I would hope that you would be interested and willing and feel passionate about releasing some of this ancestral trauma so you don't pass it on to your child, right? We have enough pain, trauma, and suffering on this planet, without then passing on ancestral pain, ancestral trauma to your offspring. And so I really encourage you, if you're trying to get pregnant, I really encourage you to start to think about some of these relationships, the relationships that you had with your mother, the relationship your mother had with her mother, the relationship that her mother had with her mother. I really encourage you to start to think about some of these relationships and start to brainstorm some ways you can heal it. Even if these ancestors have passed on, there are ways you can emotionally, spiritually, energetically really heal some of these lineages. And that will help you get to the place that you need to be emotionally, spiritually, energetically, and mentally ready to become a mom. Because the emotions that we're holding on to and the thoughts that we're thinking, they can either propel us towards our goals, which in this case are getting pregnant, or they can keep us from our goals, which in this case is getting pregnant. So please, for your sake and your future child's sake, please do the emotional, spiritual, energetic healing work to heal some of this ancestral pain and trauma. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to include a link to a YouTube video that I found that I really, really liked and it felt like was helpful to heal some of this ancestral pain and trauma. All right, well, I hope that you enjoyed that. If you'd like to go deeper into healing your ancestral pain and trauma to get pregnant and stay pregnant, you can find me online at conceivewithjoy.com. You can also shoot me an email, Sara, S-A-R-A, at conceivewithjoy.com, if you would like to schedule some complimentary time with me to see if I can help you. And I live to serve. This is what my life purpose is, to help women truly heal and truly get emotionally, spiritually, energetically, and mentally aligned to get pregnant and to stay pregnant. And I have had some really powerful experiences with clients, helping them get aligned to get pregnant and stay pregnant. And I hope that I get the chance to serve you as well. All right, blessed be.